Hudson's Drama Club for grades 4, 5, and 6, and Mrs. Wagner's Junior Choir have prepared an historical pageant about the history of Guelph. But mainly our play is about one of my real ancestors, Ellen Elliot, whom I play, and her family's journey to Guelph from Scotland. We hope you'll enjoy it.
Joanne, where are you? Mother says it's time for school. Do you want to get punished or something? Joanne, what are you doing?
Well, I was reading.
Reading? But the TV's not on.
This isn't a telebook. It's a real book.
What do you mean?
See, the words stand still instead of moving. And when you turn back to the page before, it has the same words on it that it had in the beginning.
Hey, that's neat. Where did you find it?
In the old trunk in the attic.
Really? What's it tell about?
School.
School. What's there to say about school? I hate it.
That's because the geography section your mechanical teacher was set too high and you got frustrated. Now that the inspector has corrected it, you'll be all right. But the school in this book isn't like ours. It's about the kind they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago, centuries ago. And the teacher wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man.
A man? How could a man be a teacher?
Well, he just told the boys and girls things, gave them homework, and asked them questions.
But a man isn't smart enough for that.
Father knows almost as much as my teacher.
He can't. A man can't know as much as a teacher.
Well, he knows almost as much, I betcha.
Well, I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me.
He didn't live in the house, stupid. They had a special building and all the kids went there.
And all the kids learned the same thing?
Sure, if they're the same age.
But Mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently.
Just do it that way then. And if you don't believe me, just ask my teacher.
All right, Miss Big Smarty Pants, I will.
Good morning. So you want to learn about the history of Guelph?
Well, not really.
Please focus on the screen and we will begin at the beginning. Now look what you've done.
Well, you never know. We just learn.
Wellington County was wilderness. The neutral nations of Indians wandered peacefully throughout the southern and central sections of Ontario. To the north of them were the Huron Indians, and to the south the Iroquois. No one owned the land, and the Indians lived in harmony with nature. But in 1615, the first white man came to this area. With the Huron Indians near the present site of Goderich. The French hoped to claim the land for France. But the English won it for England. It was the English who won. By the time the Indians realized what white man was all about, it was too late to stop them. The Huron tract was given to the Canada Company, and John Guelph was appointed governor. The site Guelph selected for Guelph was approximately 50 miles due west of York on the banks of the River Speed. On April 23rd, St. George's Day, 1827, John Galt, together with Charles Parr and Tiger Dunlop, set out to cut down the first tree and celebrate the founding of this city. They set out at dawn and it was pouring rain. Tiger led the way.
As we struggled through the underbrush and over fallen trees, the sky clouded and the forest became so dark that we lost the place that marked the way.
Shouldn't we be there by now? Where's your compass?
Well, you see now, I seem to misplace it.
You what? Good heavens, man!
Now, there's no need for alarm. We'll find a way before long.
But I want to found Guelph today, not tomorrow. On St. George's Day in honor of the king.
Who's going to know if it's today or tomorrow?
I'll know.
They went on, not speaking to each other, and with no idea of where they were. At last they came to a shack owned by a Dutchman who spoke no English. They tried gestures of drawing a map on the ground, but got nowhere. Finally, the Dutchman led them to a squatter's hut. But the axemen had already left. They were to meet them at an Indian's hideout. Finally at sunset, drenched and cold, they reached the place. Only to be scared out of their wits by an Indian who had thought they had come to arrest them for murdering a white man. By now it was dark, but Galt still insisted on his ceremony. They walked to a rise above the river where a large maple tree stood. The rain had stopped, the woods were silent, and the three men, Galt, Tiger, and Charles Parr, stood in the leaping light of their pine knot torches. Galt gave his torch to Tiger and took up an axe. He was silent and still a moment in the shifting shadows, and then he struck. Tiger struck next, and then Mr. Parr. After which 2 axemen were called to finish the job.
The tree fell with a crash of thunder, as if nature was alarmed at the entrance of man into her solitudes.
Since we're on a hill, the streets of Guelph should go in the direction of my fingers, like a fan.
I suppose a church up on that high hill. And after our offices are built, we can build a school. That will attract settlers.
Now came the difficult job of convincing people to leave the old land and come to the new world.
I, William Elliot, formerly a shepherd from Scotland, and my wife, Janet, decided in the year 1831 to sell all our belongings we could not carry and book passage for Canada.
I'm thankful that I did not know what lay ahead of us.
There were 7 of us children.
William.
And Robert,
George,
And James.
Ellen,
And Margaret.
and baby Isabel. William and Robert were 15 and 14.
George was 10.
Well, James is only 6.
I was 12.
And Margaret 8.
But baby Isabel wasn't even quite 2.
Well, children, it's been decided. We're immigrating to Canada.
Oh,
yay! Pack up what you can carry and take the rest out to the yard for the auction.
£70. It cost us £20 to sail from Scotland, across the Atlantic, and up the St. Lawrence to Quebec.
Children, now don't make fun of your brother. He doesn't know what this is. This is something to cook our food in.
Well, can't you make it on the shed? No, silly, or then the boat will burn. Cook it in the sandbox.
We had to bring our own food and cook it on the open deck. Fortunately, most of the time, no one felt like eating, or we wouldn't have had enough.
It took us 5 weeks.
And long before that time, we all grew very homesick
And wondered if indeed we had made the right decision. That we stepped on solid ground once again.
Mother, the ground won't stand still for us. It was as hard to learn to walk on land again as it was to learn to walk on board ship.
We spent that night in an inn.
I'm so tired. My phone's ache.
Never get here.
Good night, Father. Good night, Mother.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Good night, children.
Mother, something's biting us.
What's this thing?
It's a lice. There are lice in this place.
The lice kept us awake all night, and Father said that was the last time that we were going to spend good money for such a shelter.
From now on, we'll sleep in the open.
We took a steamship to Montreal and then walked the 12 miles to Lachine.
We had to walk because of the rapids. It was impossible for the steamboat to go any farther.
Well, we're my stagecoach.
Then we took a Durham sailboat to Prescott.
It was a flat bottom barge, 89 feet long. The bottom of the boat was shot with iron for damaging rocks.
It took us 10 days to cover approximately 100 miles.
We sailed when the winds and rapids permitted, but more often than not, the boat had to be rowed, pulled, or towed by hand.
That meant all the women and children had to get out and walk.
Men and older boys had to help with the towing.
We could have made faster progress if we just walked.
At night, most of the other people slept in the inns, but true to his word, Father ordered us to camp on the shore.
We always awoke sopping wet.
And when it didn't rain, the heavy dew would soak us.
reached Lake Ontario. We then had to take a schooner to Burlington Bay. There we could buy a ride to Guelph and come to wagon. But Father, you said we should save money and walk. Luckily, the weather was mild in September. Mother, let me eat!
Okay, come here, James. I'll carry you on my back. We old boys took turns carrying James on our backs.
Margaret and I had to carry the luggage.
It was a slow, painful journey. Our shoulders ached and our feet blistered.
Now and then we'll pass a lonely cabin and stump-filled yard.
But mainly there were only trees and silence,
Gigantic trees that shut the sun's rays.
making us feel small and insignificant.
The only sound was our boots and our heavy breathing. It took us 3 days to reach Guelph.
Mother, is this Guelph?
Before us lay a few large green buildings standing up from the riverside.
Yes, children, that is Guelph.
A large burly man came out of one of the buildings.
I'm Tiger Dunlop. Welcome to your new home in the wilderness.
Dr. Dunlop arranged shelter for us with other immigrant families.
At last, I could bring some sort of order to our belongings. James, be a good boy and hold Isabel for me.
Margaret and I folded the duty clothes and washed them in the river.
But Mother mended the skirt and Pasha boy's pants.
Mother, we boys will go up and carry our fenced property.
Paisley Block, northwest of Guelph. Very well. Girls, let's see what we can find for our supper.
Yes, Mother. We cooked all our food in a big pot. Everyone brought something to put into it. That was a great help.
We traded tales of misadventures and bewailed the fate that had caused us to leave Scotland.
on the 100 acres I had chosen. The rest of the £75 plus 6% interest was to be paid in yearly installments over the next 5 years. Back home, I could have never hoped to own my own land. Here, although I've just arrived, I am already a landowner. I've hired a company cart to bring all our supplies and winter belongings to our new home.
Mother, look at the horse! Well, don't spend too much time with the horse. We have to get all our belongings into the cart before nightfall. Yes, Lord. Hey, where are we gonna sit?
There's no room for us. We'll have to walk.
Walk again? We just finished walking. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to ride in this cart. Even if your father said you could, I wouldn't let you. It isn't very sturdy looking.
Yes, Mother, I guess it isn't.
You're gutting? Yeah, I think so. Let's go. The trail is wetted and scattered with stones.
It was like a piece of corduroy.
Is that the reason they call this a corduroy road? Yes, Jane.
Oh.
Go to the tip. Mother, go to the tip. I knew it
fresh meat on the table.
I think that's it.
Yeah, so do I. We followed the Waterloo Road west, and then turned north onto the path that led to our land.
Towards evening, the cart creaked to a stop. A few yards in from the path, there was a brush shelter, which Father and the boys put up a few days ago.
Well, this is it. This is our new home.
Is that where we're going to live?
I carried Isabel over to it and set her down on a patch of grass. Sighing, I mopped my forehead and tucked a few stray wisps of hair out of my face, and then set to work. Boys, get that cart unloaded. And Ellen, you and James, try and find some wood to start the fire. There must be some flint around here. Go check in the cart. Look. When everyone had left, and the children were in bed asleep, I looked about in dismay. There were no windows, and the floor was of earth. A stump served as a table in the middle of the room. At the end of the 18 by 30 foot shanty, there was a crude fireplace. A hole in the roof served as a chimney. A blanket partitioned off our sleeping area. On the other side, there was a hemlock-bound mattress, and Ellen, Margaret, and baby Isabel slept on it. At the heated end of the cabin, a ladder led to the loft, where the boys slept, but the slope of the roof left little more than a crawl space for them. I felt, rather than heard, the silence, the awful silence. A sense of desolation swept over me.
Winter came, and so did the snow.
We boys helped Father whittle away at some wood he had set aside and made chairs and bed frames.
And a sled! Oh, boy!
Father also taught us how to fish through the ice.
We knitted socks and mittens.
And helped while it was mended.
There wasn't much to eat that first winter because we didn't have a garden. There was always fear that the cholera might strike again, and there was no doctor.
Sometimes Father shot deer, but more often than not, I hunted a squirrel or a chipmunk.
Sometimes it was a raccoon or a porcupine.
Thank you. Take the rest into the house.
Ellen taught me my letters using the dirt floor in front of the fireplace for a slate.
Finally, spring came, and Mother could go visit the neighbors.
Children, I'm going to the Wrens for a sewing bee.
May I come too?
No, you're too young. And Ellen, I need you to stay home and look after Isabel for me.
Yes, Mother.
Now, I should be home before nightfall, but if I'm not, there
there are clean knives and everything in there, and there must be some carrots. But, oh yes.
Oh, Mother, never mind. I know where everything is, and we can take care of it ourselves.
All right. Now, where's that basket of scraps? I knew I put it out someplace. Oh, here it is.
Thank you, Margaret.
Bye.
Goodbye, Mother. Come on, James.
Bye, Mom.
Janet, how nice to see you.
Hi, what a lovely day. Hi, Jane. I brought you some scraps.
Thank you. Will you tell me about them? The best part of quilt making is each piece of it has a different story.
Okay, this one came from my dresses.
Hello, Joanne and Marie. And here comes Louise and Granny Clayhorn. You remember Jen and Elliot, don't you?
Oh, yes, of course. Hello. It seems the century passes our house raging.
Did you manage to survive the loneliness of the winter?
Just barely, but you know what I miss most is good home-cooked white bread. Will somebody please give me the recipe? I'll give you the recipe before you leave.
What I miss the most is a good cup of coffee.
Emily, why don't you give her your secret recipe?
You have a secret recipe for coffee?
Well, I discovered it last fall. We were digging the potatoes and there were all these dandelion roots around. So I dug some up and scrubbed them and dried them in the oven, thinking they might come in use for something. Then, when we ran out of everything else I could think of to drink, I ground some up. To our surprise, it tasted just like coffee. Would you like to try some?
Oh, yes, please.
Jane, would you bring some out? Okay.
I don't know if you ever jumped out the dandelion plant. I often use it for dye.
And right now, the greens make an excellent salad.
It has almost as many uses as the pumpkin. Perhaps we'll all grow it in our garden someday.
Here's the coffee.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
It is like coffee. It tastes just like it.
I would never have known it would come from dandelion roots.
Have you heard that they're going to build a schoolhouse this summer?
On Sears Farm.
Have they got a teacher yet?
Yes, it only costs 25 cents a day. And if you haven't the money, you could bring food for the teacher or wood for the fire.
It's quite a walk from our place, but I guess it's worth it.
Well, I should hope so. That's one of the reasons we came to Canada. The old country, only the rich got to go to the school. And my Tommy plans to be someone important when he's older. James already knows his letters. Ellen's been teaching him.
Yes, Ellen is quite a clever girl. I think my Robert's rather taken with her.
Speaking of Ellen, I better be getting home. I told her I'd be home before nightfall. Thank you, Emily. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, Jane. Here's the recipe for the white bread.
Oh, thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you for coming.
Bye, Emily. Bye.
Oh, goodbye. Thank you for coming.
Bye, Jane.
Goodbye. they weren't all the same age. In those days, not all children were required to go to school. It wasn't until 1827 that a law was passed in Ontario that said all children between the ages of 7 and 12 must attend school for at least 4 months of the year.
Only 4 months.
Parliament also declared that all schools were to be free, so no child can have an excuse not to go to school. That was when the classes started getting large enough to have one teacher to each grade. I hope I've answered your questions. That is all for today. Joanne, your assignment for tomorrow is to write an essay on the hardships of taking a journey to Guelph in the early 1800s.
Well, what about her?
I'm not her teacher.
Well, thanks a lot. I wonder if they hated school, too.
Probably not. In the old country, only the wealthy got educated. They thought it was something special. Can I look at that book again? I like the way you could read the same pages over and over again. You can't do that with a telebook.
Sure, let's read it out loud together and pretend it was the olden days. They sure must have had fun.
Hey, we can even pretend we're going on a journey to Guelph like the Elliots.
All right. Hey, you know what would be really good if we got some other kids to play with us. Let's see if we can.